They are also related, more closely related to martins than any of them are to weasels and minks. And weasels and minks are most closely related to each other. Okay, fishers. Fishers are really cool.
I knew we'd say that. Wow, good big jacket.
And we have fishers here. Fishers are found across the northern tier of North America, from the Pacific Northwest and Northern California to the Northern Rockies, across the boreal Canada to Maine. And they used to be found in the southern Appalachians, as far south as the Smokies, but were overtrapped and hunted there by the 1830s. And of course, we have them here in the upper Midwest, where they're found in extensive forested areas, usually a mixture of hardwoods and conifers. And they're found right here. So here is this beigey yellow shows you the original range of fishers in North America, found only in North America. In the 1800s and early 1900s, they were heavily trapped because their fur was so valuable. They have actually about the most gorgeous fur you'll find anywhere, and it has been highly valuable at times. In the early 1900s, fisher pelts, the pelts of female fishers would go for $100, and one went for as much as $300. That's in the early 1900s. That's thousands of dollars for a pelt in today's dollars. They were heavily trapped, and by the 1930s, they had been extirpated throughout much of the United States, and their range had retreated to what you see in pink here. No, excuse me, in blue. And now, since they were protection began in the 1930s, and in almost all states, fishers were protected by the 1940s. Fishers have returned to much of eastern northern United States, and so the pink shows the present range of fishers in the U.S. When the populations retreated, you can see they were found right here in the big bog country of northern Minnesota. But they weren't, or might not have been, right here. But they had returned here by the 50s and 60s, and Minnesota actually was the source of lots of fishers that were trapped here and moved to other places for reintroduction. Moved to Wisconsin, moved to Upper Peninsula, Michigan, moved to Vermont, and they've also been moved to Oregon and Northern California. Fishers are generally thought of as a forest species, but some recent work and recent science has suggested that they're more flexible than we used to think. This photo was taken in North Dakota in an ag field, and fishers were running across the field from one forest that was along the river to another one that was along a stream. I took this photo 2 weeks ago. This is in Schenectady, New York, and right up here is a site where 2 days before a female fisher had been resting on the top of that squirrel nest. And here you can see to the right there's a house, big fancy house, and there's a squirrel nest right up here. And here's the fisher looking at me. Can you see her head right here? a colleague and I were trying to track her down, and we were walking around underneath these trees for about 15 minutes. She must have been watching us the whole time. So fishers appear to be more flexible, and in some places are moving into areas that are not as densely forested as we normally think of their habitat. Okay, so fishers are born almost exclusively in holes in trees. And trees are diverse depending on where you are. Around here, they're often hollow aspens. Here's a female fisher. You see her over to the left, and she's got kits. You can see her swollen teats on her stomach. And here she is going up a tree and into the hole with her kits. Fishers are born in the spring, anytime from about now until the end of April. About a week after a female gives birth, she breeds. And here we've got a male fisher on the ground at the base of a tree that has a female's den with kits in it. He's snooping around because he can tell by the smell that she's ready to breed. So about a week to 10 days after giving birth, female fishers breed. The fertilized zygotes develop in the uterus for about 10 days, and then when they reach the blastocyst stage, a ball of about 200 to 300 cells, they go dormant, and they stay dormant for pushing 11 months. And then they implant, the normal implantation process, and female goes through a normal pregnancy, and she gives birth at just about the same time as she did the year before. There's some work that is done at the Minnesota Zoo, and there were a number of females that almost to the day gave birth 1 year, apart. Female fishers are fairly undeveloped when they're born. These are about 2 weeks old. They got a little bit of fur. Their eyes are closed. Here's a female with a youngster that's about 10 weeks old. Here's a female with a youngster about 8 weeks old. Can you see that she's... Okay, here's the female coming down the tree head first. Her tail, her body, her head. And here's her kit right there. Kit's about 8 weeks old. So here they are at about 8 weeks. Their eyes open at about 7.5 to 8 weeks, and their ears open about then too. That's about when they start eating some solid food. At 12 weeks, they're pretty agile, pretty able to get around, go up and down trees. And as you gathered, some of these photos were taken of fishers that Concy and I raised in our house. So life was pretty good for fishers in our house. We didn't make them work real hard, but I'll come back. I actually did make them work pretty hard when they grew up. But raising fishers was pretty fun, and playing with them was a lot of fun too. This is a female who we named Tacho, and she would play with my arm as though my arm were a fisher, and or some other critter, and she would bite my wrist as though she were biting the back of the neck of a prey animal. It was pretty fun to play with her. Fishers have a large sexual dimorphism in body size, and most females weigh in the vicinity, adult females weigh in the vicinity of 5 pounds, and males weigh 8 to 12 pounds or more. The biggest male I caught was pushing 15 pounds. It appears as though the males that are effective breeders are usually in the 10, 11, 12 pound range or higher. And adult males that are 8, 9, under 10 pounds, probably are not effective breeders. I can come back and talk about that more later. It gives you an idea of body size, and again, the difference between males and females. What do fishers eat? Well, they eat snowshoe hares, and they eat a lot of other things too, squirrels and mice and grouse and stuff. Here, snowshoe hares are the major food, and they eat more snowshoe hares than anything else. And as the snowshoe hare population goes up and down, the fisher population follows. They hunt for snowshoe hares predominantly in dense spruce fir, cedar type lowlands, and that's where the densities of the snowshoe hares are highest. And in those areas, they weave around through the dense vegetation, taking advantage of the complex structure of the forest on the forest floor there, the branches, the logs, things like that, looking for snowshoe hares and trying to take snowshoe hares by surprise. And they usually kill them with a short rush, and then they grab the hare and kill it. During the summertime, they hunt for hares in the same sort of way, taking advantage of the complex structure that's on the forest floor to help take hares by surprise. They kill hares with a bite to the back of the neck. And like with the weasels, if the fisher is able to grab a hare without getting it at the back of the neck, because hares are going to run away. I mean, they don't just stand there waiting. So if the hare bolts from wherever it's been hiding and the fisher goes after it, if it doesn't get the back of the neck right away, it doesn't care. The fisher just grabs it. And wherever it grabs, it holds, and then it wraps its body around it and grabs with all 4 feet, the same way a weasel does with a mouse. And after it's got a good firm hold with all 4 feet, then it shifts its bite to the back of the neck and lets go of the feet. And that all takes about that long. It's just amazing how fast they are, how quick they are at it. An adult fisher can eat a snowshoe hare in one sitting. Female weighs 5 pounds. Snowshoe hare weighs 2 pounds. She can eat it all in one sitting. Gotta taste good, don't you think?
Do they go after domestic bird chickens and roosters and stuff?
They're happy to eat domestic critters, sure. They eat grouse. That's just a wild chicken.
Does the population go up and down as does the snowshoe hare?
Yeah, fisher population follows the snowshoe hare population. Down at the bottom here, you can see a female fisher with a gray squirrel. So they eat squirrels, and as they're foraging through the woods, they take advantage of whatever they can to get a better perception of where the prey might be. So here you can see in this photo, a fisher jumped up on a log and ran along the top of the log, and it was smelling and hearing around. Not so much looking around, but smelling and hearing around to try to figure out where there might be prey and where this fisher ought to go next. They'll eat red squirrels, but they usually catch them on the ground in their middens, where the squirrels have been storing cones and seeds. Nothing can catch a red squirrel in trees. I mean, they're just good. Fishers may be fast in the trees, but red squirrels, they catch on the ground. Sometimes eat chipmunks, voles, mice.